All right, fine. I'll be a gracious host. How you doing?
Little Mermaid is the scariest Disney movie by far, though.
Why the hell is Ace Blade in your Kickstarter?
Some comics. I'm getting controversial today. We're gonna get controversial today with.
My proudest moment is this interview and being able to talk to you two.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Taurus Comics, in collaboration with Fourth Wall Productions, respectfully brings to you the 76th episode of the Four Tales podcast. I'm your host, Kyron Silver from Taurus Comics. Across the way is a purple reporter of Ace Blade, Danny J. Quick, and together we are your two award-winning blurred comic creators here to help you find your next favorite comic. We are live on the Age to Geekdom network via Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. So if you're listening and watching us live, thank you for your support. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review our podcast because all your positive reviews and interactions help us in reaching a bigger audience. DJ Quick, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Oh, man. I'm stressed out, actually. I'm
Really?
very stressed. Yes.
The Kickstarter is stressing you out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like that, man. It's a
It is.
whole thing. I'm already bald, but I lost more space in my bald spot during this campaign.
Man, I sent in my Kickstarter for issue 4, a solid lightning wielder.
Mhm.
Got 2 days ago. No, was
Yeah.
that yesterday or 2 days ago? I don't remember.
I think it was crazy.
And it's still under review. And I know that's stupid because they take a while, but I've had a Kickstarter get reviewed in like half an hour and got approved.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
it's weird because they went to from what I heard, I don't know this, but from what I heard, they went to a 4-day work week. So depending on who's reviewing your Kickstarter, if it's at the beginning of the week or the end of the week, it might just take 4 or 5 days. You know, 3 business days that they're supposed to take. So
okay.
it's like that.
Orlando is in the chat. Good morning, Orlando. Thanks for joining us
Orlando,
again.
what's happening, man? It's good to see you. Up and at 'em.
Yeah. We're about to do our what books we read this week, right? Or you had wait, you had a rant.
I do have a rant, but it's a rant against myself.
Okay.
So I don't know if
Go
you
for it.
saw, but I I decided recently that I was going to sell my comic book collection, well, most of my comic book collection. All right, so I got probably 600 comics in here that I just been collecting over the years. You know, but
Only 600?
yeah, only 600. You know, I've only literally been reading comics for like 10 years now. So
God, that's so small.
it's crazy. It's crazy, but that's such a small amount of books to have collected. But I decided, I was like, all right, I need to for my personal collection, you know, I'm gonna shrink it down to 100 books. I'm gonna keep 100 books for myself. I want to stay under 20 graded books, but my indie books is a separate thing. So I'm keeping my indie books because I'm reading those. So the indie books that I have, I probably got 200 indie books alone. But you know, just for the store and for, you know, because I want to build up, you know, kind of the, not the retailer, but the you know, the people who go out and sell and trade comic books and stuff. You know,
Reseller?
I want to kind of build up that profile.
Okay.
So in doing that, I decided to go through my comics and, you know, see which ones I wanted to keep. And last week I told you I was reading Far Sector.
Yep,
Right?
you did, yeah.
Reading back through Far Sector. So I went and I found my Far Sector books. I found my Far Sector comics. Right? And I was like, I should sell these. You know, I know the story. I got the trade now. I should sell these. Turns out I have all of them except for book number 6.
All right.
All of them except for book number 6.
Okay.
So now the conundrum is, do I go out and buy number 6 to complete the to complete the set? Or do I just sell them the way that they are? Or do I just buy number 6 and then put this as part of my 100 books that I have? You know what I'm saying? Like my
Yeah.
brain won't turn off the. I want to have the complete set. I love this series. You know, it was great to me. So you know, this might just be 12 of the books that I keep, but that takes out a lot of space from the 100 books that I want to shut it down to. So maybe
Okay.
I'll expand it. I don't know. I don't know what to
So
do.
my thoughts. If you
Mhm,
can buy number 6 for cheap, do that. Like just do a quick search, go eBay, find if you can find it cheap.
mhm,
If you can't find it cheap, sell it as is and just say the whole series without issue 6. Just let everybody know, hey, this is everything without issue 6.
mhm.
Um, my other issue is how the hell do you still only have 600 comics? I was sorry. I was just thinking about that. I was like, I got 18 long boxes in my closet right now, and I think about each long box holds about 200 comics. So I got like almost 4,000 comics.
Bruh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
How long you been collecting books?
about 35 years now.
Yeah. I'm super
I
young
mean,
to I didn't even start really collecting comics until cuz I started reading comics when I started making comic books, right?
yeah.
So, as an adult, I've only been making comics 10 years and I didn't even know what I wanted to collect. I was just buying stuff that I thought was cool and then, it started to grow. So,
Okay.
it's weird, bro. Hey,
Yeah.
and everybody's not independently wealthy like you, so
Uh,
everybody can't just have 4,000 comic books in their house or in their
apparently, from y'all, I'm living off my retirement money, so I'm good.
but Justin is right though. Justin is right though. He said it's
Yeah.
gonna bother me now I don't have the whole set. Now I gotta complete the set before I can sell it. But
And
when I complete the set, I'm not gonna want to sell it. I'm gonna be like, oh, I like these. I'm gonna keep them.
and Justin on Facebook also is right. He says that your little collection is cute. But I want to see. I mean, we spent a good time talking. I want to see about the guest we have today and see what kind of a collection he has. I mean,
Absolutely.
he's probably been collecting comics for a good amount of time, and not respectfully, that not about his age.
What's crazy is that I was looking through his bio and I was like, oh, he's been making comics as long as I've been alive. Like I
Facts.
was born in 1985, and I want to say his first publication was 1986 or late 1985. So,
Mhm.
absolutely glad to have our guest on today.
All right. Well, I mean, do you have an intro for him? You sounded like you're about to go off on something.
Go ahead, you got it.
Oh, okay. Wow. Well, we have the amazing Ben Dunn on the line today. He's from Antarctic Press. He's been around for, like you said, a long time creating comics, but creating a plethora of comics. So, Ben, thank you for being on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, gentlemen.
So, all right. So, we were talking about our comic books. I do want to know roughly how many comics do you think you have in your collection, if you still have
Uh,
one?
yeah, I do have a collection. Presently, I probably think I got maybe about 1,000 or so. I mean, I've collected a long time, and I've gone through many collections, bought, sold. But now I just focus on just stuff I really like, and just focus on that. And then, what they say, you collect what you love, and you'll never be disappointed.
Okay.
That's right.
So,
I'm in that vein now. I'm like I need to because a lot of these books, I bought to read them or whatever, and now I'm at the point where like I want to keep certain stuff I want to keep for myself, but the rest of the stuff I can I can
Yeah,
sell
I
or
hear you, man. I haven't bought any modern comics in a long time. I feel if I'm going to pay $4 or $5, $6 for a new comic, I might as well, buy an old Bronze Age or Silver Age book for the same price, and
right,
I'll probably get a lot more enjoyment out of those books.
right.
Yeah.
so first thing we want to do, like we've been doing the last couple of weeks, is want to go through and see what everybody's been reading this week. So Ben, you're a guest. Can you, to our crowd of people here, what comics have you been reading this week?
Uh, Truthfully, I haven't read any. I mean, I read a lot of independent comics, but I
That's what
haven't
we're here
read
for.
any Marvel or DC in a long, long time. Um, See, I mean, I mostly read books that people send me. Like a lot of guys that I know, they just send me comics for me to read. I read a lot of the. I read a lot of just books I get out of the dollar bins whenever I go to a convention or stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
uh, I mean, I'm trying to expand my repartee, so to speak. So, I've been buying mostly just oddball comics, like romance and horror comics and cartoon comics. Non superhero comics, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Just to see what the writing is like, see what the art is like. Because some of these non superhero comics, they had really long lives. When before comics became almost strictly superhero, there was a lot of genres, Western, science fiction,
Mhm.
and things like that. And I just wanted to open my horizons, so to speak, to see, what made them, popular or different, or what the writing style was like, who the art was like, and things like that. So, that's what I'm mostly into now.
Nice. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're all about the indie comics. Most of the stuff that I read these days is is indie comics. I still go to the store and support a couple of mainstream titles, but my guy Jermaine Exum, he's at the store and he knows what I'm gonna like, so he just picks books out for me, and then whenever I come in, he's like, "Here, check these out." So
Well, that's interesting because I believe that uh, I mean back in the 80s and 90s, indie comics were just sort of like a niche type
Hmm.
thing, so occupy a corner of the comic book store. But now it's really gotten way accepted. It's getting to the forefront because the quality of the indies now are on par, if not surpassing, a lot of the quote unquote mainstream comics nowadays. I mean, the talent that
Hmm.
has arisen in the last 5, 10, 15 years has been astonishing. I mean, I can see it just based on the submissions I've been getting,
mhm.
based on the crowdfunding projects I've been seeing, and just in the general look and feel of these indie comics. It's just astonishing to me how much headway indie comics have made into the market.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we both noticed that too. We both are, Danny and I are both, comic creators on our own for independent scene. What would you say is the biggest reason of this wealth of talent now coming into independent scene? Is it just the access to internet where we can talk to more people? Is it just general
Well, I think, yeah,
evolution?
that's definitely a factor. The fact that the internet allows you to expose yourself to way more people than at previous. I mean, the fall of the gatekeepers is what really uh, is. That used to be, there was like what, you had to go through a publisher
Hmm.
traditionally,
Mhm.
and now you don't have to. You can do your stuff directly, straight to the people, direct to the consumer. And that gives you a lot of unfettered freedom. And it gives you, and it's almost like a purely capitalist system where you just, your work survives or thrives based on the product you produce. If people love your stuff, they'll give you money for it and they'll support you. If they don't, they'll let you know. And then it's up to you to change it or modify it or to tweak it so that it can be a success.
Hmm. Very nice. Now you have a Kickstarter going right now for Tomorrow Girl. Speaking of people giving you money for things that they like, uh, can you tell us about what Tomorrow Girl is, what the Kickstarter is about, things like that?
Yeah, Tomorrow Girl is sort of my. I love old classic superheroes. I mean, I grew up with Silver Age and Bronze Age books, and I wasn't much into Golden Age because I always thought the art was kind of crude and the story's very simplistic. But this is my character to a sort of an homage or throwback to those earlier, simpler times when characters were uh, had a set, strict code of morals. But I throw a little manga spin in there so that it's has also sort of a slice of life type feel to it.
Mhm.
So it's like a combination of like a Silver Age manga.
Very nice.
It's a character that's been around for a long time. I created her like in 1992, but she was always a background character. She was never a main supporting character. So, but when I did a crossover with Common America, that thrusted her into the forefront, and people really started liking her. So I decided to start doing her own series, and it's proven to be pretty popular. So I decided to let the new readers know that character's been around for a long time, and I wanted to uh, uh, get them up to date on all her past adventures.
I love it. I love it. So before we get into your comic book history and going back to the beginning, like we like to do, Justin has a question in the comments, and I'd like to hear both of y'all's perspective on this one. So Justin is a good friend of mine, and he's recently gotten into reading comics and interested in the comic book business and things like that. And he wants to know what's the criteria for a comic to be considered mainstream. Do you think it's the publication? Do you think it's the amount of time or how many books are coming out a year, or maybe the infrastructure that the company has that's publishing it?
Oh, that's a pretty tricky question. I mean, what is mainstream to begin with? I mean, is that the ability to get your material to a large audience through traditional means like bookstores and comic stores and such? And because in that case, independent comics are mainstream. You can get them in bookstores. You've seen them in bookstores and comic stores. So that's no longer. I mean, does it mean that a vast majority of people recognize the character? Well, that's not always true either. Marvel and DC have minor characters that have their own series that very few people know anything about. So I mean, I would think that anything you do that is in the eyes of the public is mainstream. It's just a matter of whether you can get that IP or creation, into a large enough audience that people will start to recognize it right away.
Right.
You and that takes a lot of work.
It absolutely does. Um, what would you say, Kyron? What comics would you determine as to be considered mainstream?
I mean, like Ben said, it's a complicated word to say mainstream. It's sort of like the struggle that we have with saying what is independent self-publishing type of thing. It's a gray area. Um, I mean, most of the stuff that comes out of Marvel DC, I guess you could probably say is mainstream. But I think if you're getting to a book where it's being sold on a monthly basis to like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, that's closer to what I would say mainstream is. But I don't think there is a true rule as
Yeah.
far as what mainstream is supposed to be anymore. I think,
Yeah,
like
I
Ben
mean
said,
things can come out of the blue that suddenly become mainstream. I mean, for instance, here's a good example, like Walking Dead.
exactly.
That was an Image comic that came out. It was another zombie book. Nobody really cared. I mean, nobody really gave it much thought. And then when the option for a TV series, bam, it was suddenly quote unquote mainstream.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people uh, were exposed to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually what I was going to say is a good example of Walking Dead. And I think Invincible is getting to that now with their cartoon series, even things like The Boys. These are all books that had a following, but until they were on a streaming service or on TV, no one really cared too much about it. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
now that they're exposed now, people are like, oh, let me go back and read this series. So,
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And for Justin's follow up question, for me, I just say indie comics to me are just self published comics that don't have traditional distribution and infrastructure. So something that's pretty much self published. And that doesn't have that major notoriety like comics from the big two to have. So there's not a fine there's not a distinct line that separates what's indie and mainstream. You know,
Yeah, I
And
agree with you. And
yeah,
because the traditional is falling away to the new paradigm. I mean, the fact of the matter is, things like webtoons and global comics and a lot of digital platforms that now carry comics. I mean, they can reach potentially billions of people. And that is that considered mainstream? I mean, if you had that many eyeballs on a comic, I mean, yeah, that I would
yeah,
think that would be mainstream.
yeah,
So it's you have that flexibility now where you can go through different avenues of distribution. The thing is that we can't be caught up in. I mean, the old traditional ways we shouldn't abandon, okay? Because Hollywood is learning that lesson very quickly. Uh, but we could also embrace the new as well, and incorporate them so that the both old and the new ways can thrive together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I'm interested in your comic book origins. I want to know, and I know our what our show usually does is we go back to the beginning for folks, and we want to know how you got into comics. What was your first jobs, and what was your how did you become interested in making comic books in the first place?
When I was a kid, I loved reading the newspaper strips.
Mm,
When newspapers carried comic strips, I would voraciously devour them. I'm more of a visual person. I think I have a little bit. Uh, I had probably had undiagnosed ADHD or something when I was a kid, because I had a hard time reading text, but I could easily read text. It was accompanied by a picture. So
mm,
I was just drawn to comics, and and they were cheap. It was comics back then were meant for kids to pick up with very little allowance money, and we didn't have internet or things like that to keep us occupied. So comics was a really inexpensive diversionary entertainment, and you could read them over and over and over again. Dissect them, do whatever you wanted with them, and copy the pictures. I mean, they were a great source of entertainment. So I just love comics. It was just a fantastic way to be entertained, as a little kid. And then growing up, I just started reading more and more and more comics, and I started dealing comics to my classmates. Started drawing them because I just wanted to, and I wanted to be a comic book artist. But growing up Asian was not easy because uh, most traditional Asian families, they look down upon that as being sort of like a trash job, something that's
mm,
not to be taken seriously. But I wasn't deterred. I decided I wanted to do comics, and that's what I wanted. So, and then in college, I borrowed $5,000, and I started Anarchic Press and
Wow.
started publishing my own comics. And we've been doing it ever since. So I figured if I can't get into Marvel and DC, I'm just going to do my own books because uh, at that time, Eastman and Laird came out with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
mhm,
and that was a huge game changer. Indie comics uh, were always considered like I said, niche, sort of small time. But when the Turtles came out, oh, that just opened the floodgates to the direct market and to indie comics, and it just thrusted black and white books on the forefront, and it's hasn't changed ever since. Yeah. And so we've been publishing books continuously for 35 plus years, and we hope to do it for another 35 plus years.
Wow. That's crazy. And then just going back to the comments you were saying how, when you're younger, being Asian, it wasn't something that your family was really appreciative of. And
No.
I still get that with my in-laws. They still, every time I see them, they're like, "You're still making those comic books?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Those
Making
funny
money."
books? Still doing those funny books? When are you gonna get a real job?
Yeah, no, it's still something, and I think there is a good portion of society, not just in the Asian community, but society in general, that looks at comic books and they're like, okay, that's a side thing. That's a hobby. That's not a real job. But you've shown for 35 years, like you said, you're able to make comics. You can make a living on it. There are people out there. I mean, I don't know about your financial situations, so I'm not going to guess on it. But there are people out there that are making millions of dollars doing this.
Yeah.
What drives you to keep making comics? Is it just the love of the medium? Is it just a paycheck
Well,
at this point?
I love comics and I love the people behind comics. The people who create comics, there's something about them that's sort of special in my eyes. The creativity, the imagination, the drive to want to do something and create something out of whole cloth. I mean, it's just something I just really, really admire. And my I mean, I'm not a rich man by any stretch of the imagination, though I hope to be one day, because there's a lot I could accomplish because, all the money I make, I put back into creating more comics. I mean, I could, sit back and just do my own thing, but I love giving people the opportunity, to get out there and get their stuff exposed. Now, I mean, now publishers are not nearly as important as they used to be
Mhm.
because of crowdfunding. People
Yeah.
can just do their own thing and not have to worry about it. But there is something special about seeing your comic in a comic book store, being browsed by just the public at large. I mean, it's not maybe not as important, but there's sort of a cachet behind that. So, in that sense, publishers still have some value in those terms. So we like to embrace both sides. We like to do the crowdfunding, but we also stick to the traditional model of getting comics into comic stores.
Mhm.
I'm following up on that because you brought up something that at least was important to me recently is your idea of giving back and letting other people shine, and the idea of seeing their books in comics and in a comic store. Antarctic Press has their exciting comic series, which you're now allowing other creators to put their books basically through your system and have it be showing up in comic book stores. How did that come about? Because I know when I got my chance and saw Lightning Wilder was featured
Yeah,
um, for 4 issues, I was
great
excited
character.
to see my book in the store and see my artwork as a cover. That was amazing for me.
Sure. I mean, I love it was a good looking character. It's very, the way you wrote it and drew it. It was, it's on par with anything that, Marvel and DC is doing. So,
Oh,
I figured,
okay. We're clipping that so everybody can hear that Ben Dunn said my character's on par with anything Marvel and
yeah,
DC is creating.
I mean, I wouldn't have taken it otherwise. It's a really, the thing is that, I could, I love anthologies. When I proposed to do revive exciting comics, and all these anthologies. AP was very resistant at first. They told me, "Oh, anthologies don't sell. No one's doing anthologies anymore. It's that's old hat." I said, "No, look, guys, this is a way for us to do premiere new ideas. Give new creators an opportunity to get in comic stores because and and allow us to do it on a regular basis." and
Yeah.
and it's we've been doing it, and they say, okay, fine, you edit it and we'll do it. So I've been doing it for the next last 38, 39 issues. We're approaching our 40th issue on Exciting Comics, and we're just doing all sorts of I, I'm doing all sorts of experimental stuff. People send me submissions to of their crowdfunding projects. I mean, see, I don't uh, I don't restrict any creator from doing their own thing. I always you do whatever you want to do. You give me the permission to do it in Exciting Comics, and that's just uh, uh, that's just gravy. You can still make your money selling your own thing, and I get an opportunity to expose your work to the comic stores.
I love it. I think that's a great idea, and I know everybody who's been published in those books has probably seen it as a wonderful opportunity and is grateful for it. I'm gonna be submitting about ten projects within the next couple of months. So
I look forward to it. You'll keep me in issues for the next 5 years.
there we go. There we go.
Just expect a lot of purple characters coming through your
lot
door.
of lot of purple, a lot of purple coming.
Nothing wrong with purple.
But I think that's awesome. One question that I had, when it comes to making comics, and I'm gonna get into this a little bit when it comes to quick takes. How do you, what is your perspective on maybe um, having a lot of different kind of comics books come out by a creator versus sticking to that one comic book, like right now you're working on Tomorrow Girl. Would it Do you think it might distract you to work on a do you think it distracts you to work on a bunch of different projects at the same time, or do you have time to just focus on just the one thing that you love?
Well, it's different with every creator. I mean, we're all different in how we want to do things. I mean, like for instance, Jess Smith, all he does is bone.
Mhm.
That's one thing. Stan Sakai, all he does is Usagi Yojimbo. That's it. Eric Larson, all he does is Savage Dragon. So if you're
Friend of the show, Eric Larson.
yeah, I saw that. It was a really cool clip. But if you're happy with your one creation and you've made it so that you can actually make a living off of it, then there's no reason for you to change if you think you've got a lot of stories to tell using that character. There's no. It's really up to the individual career. For me, I have a short attention span, so what I like to do is I like to do one project and then I'll come up with another idea and do another project because I can do it. And the one advantage I do have is that I can draw my own stuff. A lot of writers are in that situation where they have great ideas but they can't draw, so they're sort of stuck in that uh, nebulous zone where they have to have an artist put their idea on paper so that he can actually sell it as a comic. So I do have that advantage. So I can, if I decide, what, I'm just going to do something different, I can just sit down and draw it. So it's not a big deal for me. But for a lot of other creators, it can be an issue. And also after 35 years of doing this, I get into a certain rhythm, I get into a certain routine. I know I have to do X number of pages a day, and I do them. And if I don't make my quota for the day, then I have to make it up the next day. So
Right.
to
Right.
maintain the schedule. So for me, it's about getting out product. You gotta keep producing, because I'm of the firm belief that if it's out of if it's not out of eyesight, it's out of your mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. That's the truth.
That's right.
Now, one thing we haven't touched upon is Warrior Nun was one of my favorite series coming out of Antarctica Press, and you were lucky enough to have that turned into a Netflix series. Can you give us quickly like a breakdown of how that process came about? Because a friend of mine is also having his comic turned into a series on FX, and I know from his perspective, it's been years in the making. Was that sort of same thing for you too? It took years for it to get to that point.
Yeah, it's really all depends. The timing is everything. Like you said, I was lucky. The timing is everything. And also it helps to have people who actually believe in your project. Because you can handle it one of several ways. One, you could attempt to try to do it yourself, but that takes a lot of time and effort, and you have to make connections. You got to do meetings, and that takes away from your actual job of creating. You know, and that's what you really should be focused on. The main thing is that I had someone. We had actually started trying to do a Warrior Nun series as far back as like 1996,
Oh wow.
and yeah, we spent a good amount of money to do an animated pilot for Warrior Nun. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's on YouTube, so you can check it out. And we had approached like a dozen production companies. We went to Warner's, we went to Disney, we went to Madonna's production. We've been to a lot of. What I did was I got an agent to represent me, and he took the property and he shopped it around, and then he set up the meetings, and then we went to the meetings to pitch the idea. I guess it was just an idea that was just too weird, too out there, because all the meetings we had during the 90s, nobody got it. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what it was about. And the idea of a fighting nun, was just too out there. Some people thought, oh, it was too controversial. We couldn't, there's no way we could do this, and so my old agent left, and because he couldn't sell it. So after you left, I got in contact with, a guy named Dean English, who is part of Perfect Circle Productions. He contacted me and said he wanted to represent Warrior Nun, around the 2000s. So he took the property, started shopping around, and he was having the same problem, but he was more determined. than my previous thing. So a lot depends on who you get to represent you. He has to be someone, he or she has to be passionate about your property enough to do the footwork and to sell it. Because that's really good. Now, some people have less problem with that because they're well known. I mean, Mark Miller and all those Eric, Kirkman, they have really good representation because they had huge successes under their belts. But they too had to start from scratch. So everyone has to start somewhere. That's the important thing. It's not to be discouraged, and play the long game. Now, sometimes it can happen really fast. So you do a property. Let's say you do a property and it sells 1 million copies. That's a attention grabber, right there. And then that's a far easier to try to sell that, especially if you have a high, what you call a high concept, where you have a title that's like, eye catching and grabby, and that also helps. The only disadvantage to that is that you have to have a good body of work. Okay, let's say you do 2 issues of a book and it's like hot, really hot. People are, we're going to option this as a show, but you only have 2 issues. So how are you going to do a TV series or a movie based on something that only has 2 issues? The thing about Warrior Nun is by the time by the time Dean we had 15 years of Warrior Nun material you could draw on. Over 100, 200 issues that they could do. So he was having a hard time selling it. Okay, I had run into some medical issues and I had to sell the rights to Warrior Nun to Avatar Comics, and so I got a pretty good big chunk of change there to cover everything. But I lost the comic book rights to Warrior Nun. That's why Antarctic Press hasn't been doing any Warrior Nun comics, if you notice, in the last 10 years or so. But he still retained all the TV and movie rights. So he was having difficulty selling it. And then he did a sizzle reel. That's also on YouTube if you want to check it out. I'm not sure if you know what a sizzle reel is, but it's sort of like a proof of concept type thing where you show how a show could be. It was actually filmed. So he spent some money, he got a sizzle reel done, and he still didn't get any nibbles. So he contacted a friend of his named Simon Barry, who was a seasoned showrunner. Okay, now I'm not sure if you know what a showrunner is, but it's basically the writer who controls the direction of the show. And he decides what. So he tweaked the property, so it would be more sellable. And then he took it to Netflix, and Netflix greenlighted it. Which was fantastic news. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't too unusual because I'm sure Netflix was greenlighting everything back then. But I mean, I was happy. It was fantastic news, But they made a lot of changes to the source material, so I wasn't. I wasn't resistant to that because I understood, things don't exactly translate from the source material into the final material, and he wanted it in a certain direction, and I thought what he did was fine. It was good. It was different, and we got 2 seasons out of it, and I think he's trying to get a 3rd season in another streaming services, but cross my fingers. We'll see what happens.
Netflix seems like they have a 2-season. They have a thing with like the 3rd and 4th seasons of shows. Like unless it's huge like Stranger Things or something like that, they'll cut you off after 2 seasons. It seems like.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it was a good show, and I'm definitely excited to hear about if we do get a 3rd season anywhere, on any, and I know a lot of these streaming platforms are looking for great content, so there's definitely hope for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always say if I can do it, then anybody can do it.
That's my saying. That's what I say.
That's right. Never give up hope.
That's right. Okay. All right. So now, if you're ready, Kyron, this is my favorite part of the show. Quick takes. So if you've never seen the show before, quick takes is a rapid fire Q&A session where with our guests, where I ask you 5 questions and get 45 seconds each to answer those questions off the top of your head. So if you're
Yikes.
ready, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So one thing that we didn't talk about was your creative endeavors with the mangaverse, and I know that I want to say in the new Spider-Man movie that just came out,
Come on, spit it out.
I'm not gonna say what happened, but we did see one of the um, I think the Spider-Man from the Spider-Verse was in there. So, but if you were to describe the difference between manga and comics to somebody in 45 seconds, how would you describe it?
If you're talking about between Western and manga comics, I would say the biggest difference is that in Western comics, there's a sense of urgency. Things have to move very quickly. You got to get down to the brass tacks of the story. And then a lot of time is focuses on a lot of soap opera elements. In manga, it's more of a leisurely, laid back, where the stakes are not always that important, in that they're more laid back and more slice of life in terms of their storytelling. And since it's less episodic and more of a long term thing, that's basically to me the biggest difference between the two.
Oh, I like that answer. That's a pretty good breakdown. I never even thought about that before you said it about the urgency of Western comics. Because definitely every issue there has to be some kind of
Conflict.
conflict in every issue. Um, but that's a great breakdown. Okay, so question number 2. I won't say recently that you posted, but I saw that you posted that you were thinking about putting the stamp from the Comics Code Authority on your comic books. Do you think that we should bring back the Comics Code Authority, and why?
No, I don't think we should bring it back. It's a nice little nostalgic treat. It's sort of like a little, nudge, nudge, wink, wink to longtime comic book readers. But also, it sort of gives new readers like, what the heck is this? They don't have any idea what the Comics Authority is, and the generation that's growing up now with comics, they have no idea what it means and what it symbolized. And I thought it might be a little tiny thing, historical relic that might interest new readers into discovering what comics books were like when it did have the Comics Code Authority. So it's just basically for fun.
Absolutely. I love it. And again, Spider-Verse last night they used it also. I think they opened both of their movies with that. So
Oh
that's
yeah, I intend to watch it. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, it was all right. All right, so question number 3. And we did talk about this a little bit earlier, but I want to approach it from a different standpoint. We have a lot of new comic book creators in our audience and people that want to make comics or just started making comics. If you were to give advice to a new comic book creator, would you tell them to start with one character or multiple characters or franchises to find their audience?
I would start with just starting. Whatever you want to do, you should just do it. The thing is that more than anybody what you want to hope to achieve with your creation. The biggest stumbling block I found with new creators is just actually getting started. I mean, you may have the greatest idea locked in your head, but if you don't actually put it on paper and share it with other people, it's essentially useless. So, I mean, I would say just go ahead and do whatever you find you enjoy doing, and just do it and go at it and don't stop. Until you're ready to stop.
I love it. Absolutely. Just starting. That's great advice for anybody at any level. Just don't let yourself get in the way and just do what you can to get started. Absolutely.
Right
Um,
on.
all right, question number 4. Now this might be a little controversial, but in your opinion, what do you think is the bigger piece to success in comic books? Do you think it's talent or connections?
Um, you got to have talent, and there's no question about it. Because if you don't have the talent, then you really don't have a foundation to build your creation on. Now, connections are important. A lot of things get done with connections, so that's why it's important to build bridges, and not burn them. The last thing you want to do, and I try to do this with every new person I meet. I try to get to know them and respect them and decide what they're trying to accomplish and what they're expecting from me. And the last thing you want to do is to insult somebody who may someday be your boss. So just always treat people with respect, and treat them with dignity.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay, so question number 5. Now I do another show called Top 5 Live where we every week we come up with a different top 5 list. Okay.
Hmm.
So and on this show I like to get our guests to do a top 5 list off the top of their heads just to put a little pressure on you. So I want to know, in your opinion, what are the top 5 most impactful manga series?
For me personally,
Mhm.
I would probably say anything by Ishimori. Uh, he's the guy who did Kamen Rider
Mhm.
and Cyborg 009. And I grew up with Go Nagai, who was the godfather of all giant robot manga. You
Mhm.
know, I love Rumiko Takahashi, she's the master of everyday comedic comedy manga. And let's see, I also like the uh, Tetsuhara, who does the Fist of the North Star.
Oh yeah.
That was an incredible manga that just redefined action. So is that
One,
4 or 5?
one more. I got
That's
one more.
four.
Oh yeah, Matsumoto, who does Space Cruiser Yamato.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, those are yeah, definitely Fist of the North Star. I want to say was probably my first. That was probably my first manga ever, or in anime too.
Yeah.
I was probably too little too young to be actually watching that movie when it came out. But my older cousin, he put me on
Well, you couldn't take your eyes off of it for sure once you start watching it.
that that started my whole journey into anime and manga, to be honest with you. So absolutely a great list. Um and that was quick take. So thank you so very much. This week quick takes is sponsored by um Pure Life water. Re, drink water and hydrate.
The water of life.
Pure Life, if you want to actually sponsor us, you can reach out to us at fourtailspodcast@gmail.com and you can pay us for that sponsorship and endorsement because I didn't know we were doing that now.
Hey, I'm speaking it into existence. Every week, if we don't have a sponsor, I'm just gonna make up one.
Okay. Can we make up one that we actually get paid for?
Yeah, we're gonna get paid for one eventually. We're gonna
All
make it
right.
happen.
All right. All right, Ben. Well, this is the ending of our show. We thank you for being on, but we want to make sure people check you out. So, where can people buy your books, check out your social media, things like that?
Well, they can read my comics on Global Comics. I also have serialized comics on Webtoons. If you want to buy back issues of Anarchic Press stuff, the Anarchic Press does have a Shopify site, and they also have their own website selling back issues. I do have an eBay. I don't have an eBay store, but I do publish stuff on eBay. So, and you can always just write to me directly if you're interested in. I have a Facebook page where I sometimes sell artwork and back issues and things like that. So, and of course, I have a crowdfunder I always encourage you to take a look at that and see if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah. All right, Danny. What about you? Where can people check you out?
Y'all know me. The best place to find our stuff is www.fourthwallpros.com. That's where you can find all of our comics, hats, merch, and all that good stuff. And then if you want to find me on social media, it's at the Ace Blade on all social media platforms. Kyron, where can people find you?
You can check me out at tauruscomics.com. Get all my past issues there, all 11 copies of everything I've made. With issue 12 coming out soon on Kickstarter for Saw the Lightning Welder, issue 4. You can check me out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Tourist Comics, and TikTok. Although I don't use TikTok anymore, really, but I should. I know. But if this is your first time checking out the Four Tales podcast, you can go back to our website, which is fourtalespodcast.com, listen to previous episodes, or check it out on YouTube. But join us next week, where we will have Oscar Garza from Five Meets Comics on, talking about their newest series. That'll be next week, Saturday. But until then, sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.